We are live effectively in just a couple minutes. Or a couple seconds. Let's see. We're up on...
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Well, Johnny Million's in studio in Chicago, and I'm in Las Vegas. Can you say hi, Johnny, so I know I can hear you?
Can you hear me? Check, 1, 2.
Nope, I hear room mic. I don't hear actual mic. Maybe the one you're close to.
1, 2.
There you go.
Check 2.
Now I hear it. Yeah, that's great.
Yay, Devin's got it.
Yeah.
Is there internet on this thing, Devin?
There should be.
It's just sitting here. I'm trying to get onto the chat, and it just says, it's just a white screen. Yeah, yeah.
We'll
figure it out.
Yeah. Right now, in case anybody hasn't seen just the flurry of news this morning, we woke up to another white knuckle moment from President Trump. And of course, last night at 2:30 in the morning, he said, for the most part, this.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
It's hard not to laugh at it because it's so serious, but this is so brutally embarrassing. And again, because he's sundowning, 2:30 is usually when he's up, so this makes kind of sense, but...
Menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American
I remember it just like it was yesterday.
Yeah, right. This is revenge for the 70s.
Hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the...
You know, a lot of people will say this is just a distraction from the Epstein files and the fact that the Clintons just... testified and push all the pressure on him to sit down and testify. And some people will even bring up the fact that his tariffs didn't work and costs are going up and inflation increased by 0.3% after basically being steady his first year.
Yeah, he's projecting. He's doing exactly what he said Obama would do.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get to that in just one second, too. His famous tweet about, just to win an election, Obama will declare war on Iran. But I'm going to go back to, I feel like the biggest hit to his ego that caused all this was just how much everybody loves Jimmy Carter, and that the passing of Jimmy Carter actually reaffirmed that to everyone. So he wants to show that he's better than Jimmy Carter by doing he's been doing all these Obama redux. Now he's going to do the Jimmy Carter redo.
Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole.
By the way, I love war declared on probably. I think
the USS Cole?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer.
That was his addition. That was his addition to the speech. You can absolutely see where, like, because of the seriousness of it, the staff crafted this for him, and he insisted on these little, like, kind of TV show buttons. Like, before we go to break, and we're not going to take it anymore.
From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts.
Jesus. Soaked the earth with blood and guts. And so, to show them that we're
I'm starting to not like this guy.
Yeah, so to show that we're not like them, we're going to soak the earth with blood and guts, apparently, including very possibly a strike on a girls' school in Iran, in southern Iran this morning.
And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas.
By the way, that piece of news, unverified, and it's making its rounds. I would like to say that it would not be surprising at all that the Iranians would claim that children are killed or civilian casualties that didn't happen or places that didn't exist are now wiped out or whatever. They'll do that kind of stuff in the same way that Donald Trump claimed he obliterated the nuclear program. Both of these leaders and our current administration and their regime are their entire structure of governance is predicated on bloviating ridiculous claims of their superiority. So just weigh that with a grain of salt, because I have a timeline of what's happened, and we'll kind of go piece by piece, and world leaders' responses to it as well.
That launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal. Something like the world has never seen before.
Okay, by the way, the world has seen a lot of this before. I would like to say it used to be the norm, and it will shock no one that the Old Testament is full of this kind of stuff. Like it's a play-by-play of many strikes, worse than this one, ironically enough, since they didn't have, sugar rockets, missiles, and guns.
Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently.
So I'm confused about that. Does that mean they run ads on all the terrorism channels on YouTube? Is that
if you trace the money back to them and all the magazines, the Young Terrorist magazine, and
that's right.
They're all published in Iran.
But before I finish the rest of the video about how much I hate death to America, we gotta have a word from our sponsor. Iran, have you thought about visiting?
Killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordo.
Yes, obliterate.
Yeah, it was a temporary obliteration, Donnie.
It sounds like a partial obliteration to me, my man.
Yeah, Donald Trump either doesn't know what the word obliteration means or thinks it's kind of like a pause button,
He's just ticked that they used up that cool nickname, that Operation Midnight Strike.
Midnight Hammer, yeah.
Midnight Hammer.
Yeah, wait till you hear
That sounds like something that you could be, cited for.
It sounds like a Man of War album title.
Natanz and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening.
I don't think he knows what's happening. Yeah.
Wow.
Did you hear that little piece? That part is kind of particularly stunning. Like he's just kind of going back and forth like this just doing this has been a big pain in his butt. So forget it. You know what? Just forget it. Like,
never mind. Bomb you. We'll just bomb you. We'll do it live.
Yeah. If you're not going to decide
to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program.
Yeah, we're not going
to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our
Oh, by the way, this is the moving of the goalpost that showed up in this. I would like to point out to everyone this, like that long range missiles are now the problem. That it isn't so much that they want nukes. It's just they want bigger.
And we don't like you having the fancy cars.
Well, there's a way around this, like how do you feel about Moabs? That's basically what he feels like they're saying and what Israel's concerned about, because it's really not about those missiles making it here, because a large conventional missile, a Moab like that, the amount of propulsion necessary to carry something with a payload that heavy for that kind of an explosion makes it a little difficult to take it across the sea. And Iran would have a space program before they had those kind of missiles that could reach the United States. They could reach our bases in the area, which they have, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And they could reach Israel. So that's what this is really about, for the record.
Very good friends and allies in Europe. Our troops stationed overseas and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how
he's using the German pronunciation, homeland.
Emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated.
Yeah, which means we're going to have to do this again in 3 months.
We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces, and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill.
Also, by the way, IEDs are improvised explosive devices. No, he can't. He can't. And he doesn't think people understand. Since the Iraq War, anybody who's an adult knows what an IED is. And an improvised explosive device is not just a roadside bomb. They're every type of improvised explosive device. Just
thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message.
From a very simpleton man.
They will never have a nuclear weapon.
I put on my best white USA ball cap to get in front of everybody and declare war.
For the record, Johnny, he was wearing that early in the evening when he was at an event at Mar-a-Lago all night. He was at a paid event.
So this is this is his B-wig. This is like when he doesn't have time to really spray and style the weird
so he threw that hat on, and he was wearing a tie at the event. Now he's taking his tie off, so to give the illusion
he's business now.
Right, that he's been working.
This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region.
Yeah, they told him last night to run for the hills. Even in Lebanon, they're like, American people should just get on the next commercial airplane you possibly can, which commercial flight sounds really safe in that area right about now.
Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they...
Okay, anyways, blah, 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 blah. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back, and I'll give everybody an update on, as best I can, and it's a moving story, obviously, the details of when this started, how it started, and how world leaders are responding. Again, America and Israel, Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu are bombing Iran right now, because I didn't ask for this. Johnny didn't ask for this, and by and large, our listeners didn't ask for this. We'll be back. Good Lord. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call up. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, this is the little. There's the map of what. This is where we struck inside Iran, right around here. All these places. I mean, it is. It's the full scale invasion kind of like. I mean, it's an air invasion, is what it is. Like I honestly don't see a situation where American troops on the ground. I think if there are troops on the boots on the ground, they will be Israeli. I don't hear you, Johnny. It's because your mic isn't. Yeah. But during the break, I guess I don't hear you. Okay, because you'll speak out over the airways.
Yeah, I was talking to Devin.
Oh, okay.
I figured I wouldn't be able to hear you during breaks.
Okay, but now you can.
Have you on the air? I think. I'm sure by now somebody barging through that door if we were. Oh.
All right, we got 60 seconds, guys.
Great. See if this, hold on.
Really thinking about what I was going to say.
9 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
I woke up at about 2 in the morning, right when the U.S.-Israeli attack, basically going to full war with Iran.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio. Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So, needless to say, well, let me catch everybody up on what actually happened primarily. I've made as best I can a list of everything that we know so far. Strikes began early this morning, Iranian time, which is the first day of the work week in Iran. It should come as no surprise that they don't keep the Sabbath, as it were. So they don't have weekends the same way we do. So that people were going to work and school today. So this was not like, okay, we're going to do this at a time when most people will be home and not on the roads, that kind of thing, because there really isn't a day like that, I don't think, during the Iranian week. They're calling it Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion, apparently because Trump is lion, and he bellows all the time. So that's the best. And Epic Fury is I don't know, a great Faith No More song and a great Brad Pitt movie combined together into one thing.
I thought that was Furry.
No, that's the comedy he's doing with with some ex-SNL cast members or something. No, okay, so the strikes targeted Tehran, Isfahan, Qom, Karaj, and Kermanshah. Obviously, Trump posted his video at 2:30 Eastern Time a.m. last night, and called on the IRGC. He does this later in the thing. We didn't play the rest of it because who cares? To lay down their arms or face certain death. I got news for you. In this current circumstance, if they laid down their arms, what are they going to do? Shoot missiles out of the sky with handguns and rifles? Secondly, they're going to get hit anyways. That's the point. Right. It's not like they have you only have an opportunity to surrender if you have troops on the ground pointing a gun at you and saying surrender. Nobody surrenders to lightning bolts from the sky. It's absurd. Israel targeted 3 sites where senior Iranian officials were gathering. An Israeli military official said several senior figures essential to the management of the campaign and the regime's governance were eliminated. Though no confirmation that Khamenei was killed, they did hit his house and destroy it, which again, I don't know that he would be there during this stuff. And he's been largely in hiding someplace since the hit last year. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told NBC that Khamenei is alive, as far as I know, and that almost all officials are safe and sound. Which, again, as far as I know, and almost all is doing a lot of work there. Conceding Iran may have lost one or two commanders, which is him, which in a lot of cases in the history of regimes like this, that means all of them, right? And that they're asking the next guy to step into the Pez dispenser. An Israeli strike reportedly hit an elementary school for girls in Manab, killing at least 40 people, according to the Iranians. Again, this is going to be part of the back and forth on this. This would arguably be the same as when America was claiming that the Iranians stormed into Kuwait and were throwing babies out of incubators and that story. Remember that story that was around? This is one of the back and forths because the only people anybody seems to care about worldwide in these circumstances is the babies, because even the children are used as soldiers. So by and large, even across the Middle East, and anybody that can walk, like, so what? But when it comes to babies, at least there's a unifying outrage about that for the most part. Okay, is the theory. That's why they always use that both directions. Unlike the U.S.-Israel strikes on Iran in 2025, where this is going to be several days of attacks. This is not going to be a single strike. This is going to continue for the foreseeable future. The Israeli military launched additional waves of strikes targeting more missile launchers. And Israeli officials said the U.S. and Israel worked jointly for thousands of hours building a target bank. Which, again, the idea that Trump was like, we gave him a chance. No, you didn't. The whole purpose of this was to draw out these negotiations and then pretend they failed, as opposed to addressing the reality that we're planning to do this all along. So, all right. So Iran retaliated in a couple of places. They launched missiles towards Israel. That was the primary one. Air raid sirens across the country were going off. Israel declared a state of emergency, ordered civilians to shelter in place. Iran then fired at U.S. military bases across the region, at the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait, Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE, and the U.S. 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. That was the one that was hit by a missile, and a lot of people have seen the footage of that hit. Interestingly enough, the missile seems to have been struck by something else and fell to the ground. It wasn't a direct strike. Maybe it missed its initial target in there, but it hit, it almost like by being struck, hit a more important target. Although I don't believe, we have any casualties so far listed in there. So a lot of people, many of the people who would be there are actually, onboard ships or in forward operating bases working around this, one would think. So we'll see. It's the logistics areas where people have the biggest danger of being killed. Largely in situations like this, people who are in the motor pool end up being dead because of when these bases are struck. Not that Trump cares. Video verified by the NBC shows the U.S. Navy Service Center in Bahrain. As latest reports, no American casualties have been confirmed, though there is infrastructure damage. Qatar said it intercepted Iranian strikes. Kuwait warned it has the right to defend itself. Hezbollah urged Middle Eastern nations to unite against perceived aggressions by U.S. and Israel, but made no mention of an immediate response because whatever. Okay. The Houthis announced they would resume attacks in the Red Sea. Trump obviously said this would be massive and ongoing. He warned that American lives would be lost. We saw some of that. And he called on Iranians to take over your government when the attacks end. And he monitored what was going on from Mar-a-Lago. So they set up a situation room in Mar-a-Lago for this, with Secretary of State Rubio briefing him continuously while he sat on the John, I presume. Benjamin Netanyahu said the joint attack would last, quote, as long as needed. He spoke with Trump by phone a bunch. No kidding. The Iranian foreign ministers told NBC that the strikes came while the two sides were close to a nuclear deal, called the action unprovoked and illegal, and said Iran's response is an act of self-defense. That's, of course, what he's going to say. And Trump even said that, like, we were so close to deal. We were 2 weeks away from a deal when he left office the last time. Like if there was a deal to be had, the U.S. wouldn't have continued those negotiations and made that deal when Biden came in, which is absurd since It was the Obama-Biden administration that made the first Iranian deal anyways. The scuttling of this, I don't think anybody would be surprised or doesn't think currently that the scuttling of the Iran deal was the beginning of the trajectory of what's happening today. That this is an uninterrupted chain of events, and that things like October 7th happening along the way helped to move maybe the timeline up, but this was, I believe, always at play. The UN Secretary General condemned both the U.S. and Israeli strikes and Iran's retaliation, called for an immediate cessation of hostilities and de-escalation. Thanks for raising your hand and making some innocuous statement. The World Health Organization leader said he was deeply troubled and urged leaders to choose the challenging path of dialogue over senseless route of destruction. The IAEA urged restraint to avoid nuclear safety risks, said no radiological impact has been reported so far. France, Germany, and the UK did a joint statement condemning the Iranian attacks on countries in the region in the strongest terms, partly because they responded by bombing not just U.S. bases, but almost relatively at random other areas around there. Now, that might be because they know targets that the public is not aware of that seem private or public areas, but are actually military sites. And so they're striking things, and it looks like they're hitting the real military site and maybe another building on the edge of town, which is actually fundamental to the military strength in the area. And they know this, and apparently our spies know this, but to us, it's civilian infrastructure. That's always the issue back and forth in a lot of these situations. It's what Russia claims about a lot of things. Let's take a break. When we come back, even Zelensky has had a statement. Philip Ittner is going to be joining us at the break. He spent a lot of time in the Middle East. In the next hour, he's going to join us. He spent a lot of time in the Middle East and knows a lot of these players as well. So I'll look forward to hearing, he gets to talk about a different war entirely. We will be back right after this. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to pull. This is Alex Jones.
And I've been up ever since then, really thinking about what I was going to say. So there's a lot of different layers to this. Most people are just down to, we shouldn't have regime change.
60 seconds, everyone.
Trump said he wasn't going to do regime change. And people that want regime change, hey, the Iranian people are under a dictatorship, let's help them. So that's kind of the main debate going on, and I'll get to that in a moment. But what you have to understand is that a lot of this is declassified. Project for the American Century, the neocons, heavily allied with Benjamin Netanyahu, who was in power back on 9/11.
It's amazing how when real stuff hits the fan, these guys start sounding like Democrats complaining about Iraq. Isn't it funny? Okay. Let's see.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So it should come as no surprise that there is a second war that has broken out between America First MAGA, Regular Order MAGA, and Rhino adjacent MAGA adjacent Rhino. Maybe it's a three-way war. It's the World War III of right-wing criticism of a president who they brought in. Remember, this was the peace president. This is the no more foreign wars people. You've got like phony accounts effectively on, I'm a real American all over X and places like that, from like Gunther Eagleman. Here we go again, and it will end the same way. Trump makes a decision and acts on it. People panic like the sky is falling. Fake news. He's unhinged. End of democracy. Trump turns out to be 100% right. Trump wins. And then everybody else going. And then on the other side of that, you've got Alex Jones on Benny Johnson's show basically saying this is a precursor to nuclear war, worldwide nuclear attack. Now, it's hard to know where he gets that from, other than here's my theory on it. Call for the end times revelation level destruction of the world that's naturally going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, no matter how awful this is and how many American soldiers are killed and how, much it diminishes America's place in the world, it's, everything. It's, where the loss of respect and dignity and ethics and any kind of moral high ground that we may have had at any given point before these idiots took over. If anything's short of nuclear war, they'll say that Trump fixed it. He made sure it didn't happen, right? If it's in relation to the Epstein files, there's like a new Trump kind of doctrine that if you're going through hell, make everyone else go through hell too. Yeah. That's the Trump variation on that classic phrase. And this has as much to do with the Epstein files and prices going up and affordability being a loser. It is the only wag the dog available to him at all, in theory, and the only one where he's got any kind of backup in the world, namely Israel. This is, and this back and forth between the two of them are, between the two sides rather, I think will fold under just like the last bombing, campaign did, where they hated it, and then all of a sudden they moved into like sports coverage mode. Do you notice that? Like the minute they know, Trump is doing something terrible that they don't like, but I mean, these kind of bombs do this, and these kind of planes do this, and these kind of, you know what I mean? They switch into sort of a play-by-play, almost football approach to it, which, because, since it's our guy, and since we supported him, and since we obviously fell for this ridiculous no new foreign wars kind of nonsense that he was selling, rather than admit we were wrong, which some people are doing, by the way. I want to remind you that there are people amongst the maggot faithful that are starting to, rip the stripes off their uniform over this kind of stuff. They did it halfway last time during the first Iranian bombing, and now they're like, this is it. I mean, we think
I really don't like him. I'll show you.
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you an example. Dave Rubin, for those that are listening on the radio, is posting an AI photo of what I believe is Ilhan Omar, Cenk Uygur, Megyn Kelly, and Tucker Carlson crying over the strikes. And I think milk is coming out of their face. I don't know why. AI still has a lot of work that needs to be done. While the Iranian people are happy and it says freedom for Iran, and they're waving American flags. Yes, that's Dave. And he has posted an American flag, an Iranian flag, an Israeli flag, and a muscle arm. This is what passes for political discourse. And Dinesh D'Souza is saying it's about time our young people saw what positive regime change looks like.
Oh, okay, Dinesh.
Yeah. Think about what that means in terms of like an about face for both America first, no more foreign, no more, forever wars, maggot talk. The peace president, he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, right? Above all else. Like, no man has earned it so much. He's ended 8 wars and possibly started World War III is the only conclusion that a lot of these people can come to. But Dinesh's spin is, yeah, it's regime change, and it's going to be awesome.
So cool.
Yeah, so great.
Everybody will have ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah. So there is, needless to say, there is ongoing strikes. Israel has started another wave of strikes targeting missile launchers and aerial defense systems in central Iran. The IDF said it completed a broad strike on the strategic defense systems, including an advanced SA-65 aerial defense system in the Karman Shah region. Then later Saturday evening, which is about maybe an hour ago, they announced yet another flyover targeting missile launchers across Iran. You're going to see footage of jet fighters over Iran. That's what that's coming from. Iran's defense minister and Revolutionary Guard commander are believed to have been killed, according to two sources familiar with Israel's military operation, one regional source. That's, again, unconfirmed. This will all chalk some of this up to fog of war, but this is the beyond what, when we're talking about these moments as they happen and the reports coming back, it's important to remember that the information that we're getting in the modern era is as close as ever to the reality that the U.S. government and the Israeli government and the Iranian government have at their disposal. So any of it that is even remotely true is being used to make decisions going forward. That they are, and so to hear these things, a lot of it sounds like football again, like we took two, they took two. It becomes like watching, chess, or listening to a chess game behind, through a wall. That's what this often is. But these details are used to make decisions on further operations and can give you some indication of where this is going to keep you informed about what's happening. Khamenei remains cut off from contact. Iranian officials promised to release a recording from him soon, but none has surfaced yet. That's because you can tell where he is from the video and who got it and who broadcast it. The other thing is that more than likely the U.S. and Israel are striking communications inside the country, so the idea of broadcasting it will be hard, and the Iranians have turned off the internet. Now, granted, they can turn it on for themselves. They, as far as I know, still have access to Starlink. In Israel, 89 people have been injured, none of them gravely. One 16-year-old boy was hit by shrapnel in Kafr Qassam, and a man in his 50s was injured by blast impact in Kaviye Tabash. No, pardon me if I'm butchering these. The first time I'm reading some of these names. No Israeli fatalities reported yet. Iran's IRNA corrected earlier reports about the Manab school strike, now saying 5 students were killed instead of 40. No American casualties reported so far from anybody else. Drone strike on Dubai.
How can any of the numbers at this point be close to accurate? Right?
Exactly, right. I completely agree. Although, by the way, that 40 number is all over YouTube, all over, will lead videos. You'll hear people say the same number over and over again. And that's what I would, ask people to pay attention to, because both sides of this are going to try and gin up the positives and downplay the negatives. And these are human lives. So it would be important to know the reality at all times. So take all of this with a grain of salt. I'm just trying to keep you informed as much as anybody on any other news source you could have. Or nude source, sure. You know what I mean? I'm taking my pants off. What are we worried about this point? Hey, there was a drone strike on Dubai, near the Fairmont Hotel in Dubai. An Iranian Shahed drone struck, causing a large explosion and a fire. A witness said she initially mistook the drone for a bird falling out of the sky before it detonated. This is the first time the Iranians have attacked Dubai. It's obviously, one of the wealthiest cities in the Gulf. It is effectively, for people who don't know about the place, imagine Las Vegas if it was run by the Westboro Baptist Church, and they forget they own it every so often, and then they wake up one day and go, all right, sorry, bring out all the gays, right? Like that, if they did that, right, if the Westboro Baptist Church just remembered that they could kick people out all of a sudden and stop everybody from dancing and drinking, and then went back to let it happen. That's what Dubai is. I've been there. It's absurd. I'm never going back. Not in, the next decade anyways.
I remember you told us a story, Mrs. Million and I, a story about getting out of there.
Yeah, it was, I was lucky. Because I told a joke. So again, the most American moment I've ever had in my life, I would think. Okay. In the truest, proudest sense of the word, not the other way around, not what this is. Jordan reported it down 49 drones and ballistic missiles threatening its territory. Now, they may have been on their way to Israel. Obviously, they are in the flight path, but that doesn't mean they're going to make it. And the idea of letting these things through your airspace makes you complicit. So Jordan's going to shoot stuff down on occasion. They're not going to they're not going to participate in the defense of Israel, but they are going to protect their own relationship with the United States and their own civilian and military population. Iran's internet is blacked out. There's a total internet blackout with national connectivity down to allegedly 4%, according to NetBlocks. Cell phone signals have also been cut in parts of Tehran, which makes sense, again, because there's not going to be any relay in a lot of these places, and especially the bigger satellite areas where where your cell tower bounces to another actual transmission site that goes to the satellites. Those places are being hit clearly. And they were already on their heels because of the strikes last year. On the ground in Tehran, an Iranian told CNN the streets are generally quiet. Distant explosions can be heard from northern Tehran. People are yelling death to the dictator out their windows, which is, again, no surprise. Additional world leader reactions. Oman's leader urged the U.S. not to get sucked in further. This is not your war, which is interesting. I don't know if that's a stiff arm to the Israelis specifically. Said negotiations had made substantial progress before the strikes. Now, part of these talks took place in Oman, and with Iran's proxies in the U.S. at certain points about Gaza and stuff. They went back and forth, Oman and Qatar. The UAE called the conflict a historic moment in the Middle East, saying world leaders had failed to ensure the region's stability, which is sort of a half-ass statement, really. But the UAE wants Iran gone. Let's be abundantly clear. Beyond Israel, the UAE and Saudi Arabia would prefer the Iranian regime gone. So this is, people will say like this is American and Israel striking, and it's their war, our war with them. But the reality is that this is as much, a response to Trump's relationship with the Saudi royal family and the UAE as it is anybody else. Honestly, they probably had more influence on him going through with it than Netanyahu did, for real. And I think that's one of the things that people kind of leave out. He wants business and real estate relationships with these countries, and their biggest threat is Iran. They have a very distinct. This is Iran is the Shia capital, whereas Saudi Arabia is the Sunni capital, effectively at this point, and that division is meaningful. Pardon me if I'm reversing those. I don't think so, but I think I got it right. It's always confusing. So. Yeah. So Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon said Israel will never allow an Iranian nuclear state. Okay. Scott Bessent came out and said Trump. He reaffirmed commitment to Trump's maximum pressure campaign. Said the Treasury would continue tracking all illegal funds on behalf of the Iranian people. Zelensky expanded on his earlier statement, calling Iran an accomplice of Putin for supplying Shahed drones, and said it's fair to give the Iranian people a chance to rid themselves of a terrorist regime, which really puts Trump and the anti-Ukraine half of MAGA, more importantly, J.D. Vance and the Peter Thiel faction in a very awkward position. Yeah. And it was smart, I think, of Zelensky to take advantage of that. Because if you see a crack in that dam, go up there and stick a crowbar in it.
I know.
We got to take a break, but a person briefed on the military plans confirmed the operation was planned for months, and the attacks are expected to continue for several days. Military analysts note there is no sign of U.S. ground troops going in, and it will be extremely difficult to topple the government with air power alone, though. The UN secretary, and again, that's where I think the Israelis are more a possibility. The UN Secretary Council Security Council called an emergency meeting by Macron is still scheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern time today. We'll be back right after this. I'm going to try and bring up this. And man, are the people who sold this Trump is the peace president, backpedaling and sidestepping. I can't hear you. I think you're
My
talking.
everything he said was like opposite day.
Yeah, yeah, and
I need headphones to hear him.
yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. Check. Hello.
Can you hear me, Hal?
Yes, I can.
I just hear commercials.
Oh, don't. I hear you though.
Oh, how about now?
Can you hear me, Hal?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just saying that everything that he said is just opposite day.
Yeah, we're in the upside down. Welcome to Stranger Things season 6. This what happened? Who dat?
Paul came in.
Oh, okay. Who's there? What are you doing here?
Bye. I mean, what are you doing here?
Happy early birthday, Paul. Since I won't
No. Is Paul gonna be able to put me back?
Hmm.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hal says hi.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So there are a bunch of, it's no surprise that there are a bunch of right-wing media folks that were all in on Trump's being the peace president. Obviously, when he called the DOD, the Department of War, that should have been a sign that they'd been had, but apparently not. And it is all over the internet. These folks are making these weird lateral statements where they're like, "Well, I know what I said, but." Right? So
that's about everything is that way.
Notice and when it's the same thing they've had to do about the Epstein files. It's the exact same thing. You know, he said he was going to release them. Well, I mean, you got like people's reputations.
He mostly did.
Mostly did. Yeah, he released all the stuff that barely incriminates him, and he kept all the stuff that definitely incriminates him hidden, which, I mean, you would do, to be fair. If it was you, would you release it? Like, that's basically where they've landed. Glenn Beck's statement. This morning, no matter how we vote or what banner we stand under, we should be on our knees. Our sons and daughters are in harm's way. Yeah, it's a little creepy. Today is not a day for argument or political advantage. It is a day for prayer, for the protection of heaven of our troops, and blah, blah, blah. When a nation takes bold action, the cost is never abstract. It is borne by families, by service members, by generations yet to come. This is exactly the same thing when Republicans suddenly jumped on board with the Iraq war. And we're like, look, if you question the action, you're diminishing our troops. You're questioning the troops, right? If you dare say this war is a mistake, then you're saying these people died for a mistake. You might as well spit on their graves. That is the angle, right? That was used. And everything old is new again. Everything is a reboot with Donald Trump. And I would like to say that the number one posting, let's see, the top of the trending articles, I shouldn't say the number one posting thing, on X is Skid Row traffic cam shows tense crowding LA intersection. U.S. and Israel launch strikes on Iranian nuclear and military strikes is second. So just so you know, priority wise, there has been an Iranian drone strike on a building in Iran. They're posting videos of it, and then people are jumping back and forth. Like it's this ping pong back and forth. And this is the famous one. I think, Johnny, you referenced this earlier. People are making modifications to Trump's earlier statement by Obama. Yeah. Now that Obama's poll numbers are in a tailspin, watch for him to launch a strike in Libya or Iran. He is desperate, right? Change to, now that my poll numbers are in a tailspin, watch for me to launch a strike in Iran. I am desperate. It's exactly that. It reeks of it. And I got to tell you, the odd thing about it, I mean, there's a lot odd about it. The oddest thing about it, yeah, the oddest thing about it is that the very people that that supported, that it's so absurd. Yesterday on my show, I had, I was doing clips as I do in the afternoon show about like just the shuffle these folks on the right are having to do to protect, Donald Trump from the Epstein files, right? They're throwing themselves under the bus over and over, right? Just, justification after justification when there frankly is none, and again, at one point, it's not about even the egg on his face or the, what an embarrassment he is, but that these folks should be embarrassed. And many of them are, that they, they're hiding their shame behind the people that are being sent into harm's way.
Right.
Yeah. The Iranians have now struck Abu Dhabi as well. That this is a broader regional war. The Iranians have decided that they're going to make everybody pay for not pushing back against the United States and Israel. Is the idea that the Abraham Accords are going to hit anybody who was on board with the Abraham Accords or close to it. That's going to be the marker. So this is it's the first country in the region to strike Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Jordan, Bahrain, and Qatar in a single day. So they have the new record on that. There is right now, like I said, they're in. I'll show you and I'll put it up on the stream for everybody. On X, they're in sports mode. They have moved from arguing it because that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
They now have to shift their talking points to be in support of Trump. And the rest of it is, I guess there's Hail Trump bots, but there's also, just this back and forth about now it's sports. Now it's a ball game. Now who hit who, who's dead, what, the same kind of, to and fro, back and forth that we saw with strikes in the beginning of the Israel-Gaza war.
Looks like a video game.
Exactly. Is this real or not? And then the back and forth between, are these videos AI or real?
Trump scare scrolling past Barron there.
Yes, it was. Yeah. He looks like Mary Trump a bit.
I forgot what she looked like.
Now you know, if you remember.
Yeah.
This is oddly enough Jackson Hinkle. Remember him? Remember he used to be one of
from Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Yes, no, that's Ray Finkel. Yeah,
Jackson
soccer style
Hinkle,
kicker. Graduated from Collier High, class of '87. First only a professional athlete to come out of Collier County, and one hell of a model American. No, who are they? He used to be, one of these super America First pro-Trumpy guys, right? He was all over RSBN and that crowd. And then he's made a new resurgence with the America First crowd, trying to pick up on some of that sweet, sweet Nick Fuentes money that's easy to be made right now by simply pointing out all the areas where Trump is betraying his base. His advice to Qatar is stop intercepting missiles because they're going to hit you. Just let them fly over and hit Israel is the point. Watch. After being intercepted, an Iranian missile booster falls down in Doha and explodes. By intercepting Iranian missiles, the Qatari government is putting people at risk instead of letting them hit U.S. bases, which is apparently what he's rooting for. I'm not quite sure where he is, but he's fist pumping the Iranian strikes like crazy. And again, it's become sports now. Now it's going to be like, okay, now you got to block this Strait of Hormuz, then you're going to choke off this, then the economic impact of this rolling thing, and that, watch for that instant transformation of the conversation to be a tactical one, and that this is what Trump and his folks want to be, as much as possible. They desperately want everyone to talk about what is happening, not why it's happening. And so there is, good Lord. But this is We'll talk with Phil at the beginning of the next hour, certainly, and take questions from you guys. I certainly look forward to taking your guys' questions, both for Phil and for me and for Johnny, like in the next hour, because this is a moving story. But what isn't moving is that the purpose of it is questionable. The ethics of it are obviously inverted from how any president should act. And it is making maggots somersault all over the place, going back on everything they allegedly elected Donald Trump to do, and all their assertions that, by the way, Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden would
he's now checked every box of what he said they would do.
Exactly. And
always projection.
Right. And they are having to protect them, like basically defend their position or I don't even know. It's like, I think they have to rephrase it effectively. They're just taking what I meant to say was I was actually for, I'm for peace through strength. So obviously that means something. Yeah. And he's probably got information I don't have, unlike Biden, unlike Harris, unlike Clinton, unlike Obama. The guy who never reads his presidential daily brief can't be bothered, blathers national secrets within earshot of anybody who pays to be a member of his club. Somehow our national secrets and the actions that are based on those things are better than or more ethical, secure, and smart than people who did their job as a public servant. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
It's us.
Jesus.
There we go.
How you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I think I'll make it.
I still got John and Hal.
Yeah, I hear you.
Cool. Thanks, man.
I hear you. Yep.
Yeah,
I can
cool.
I can hear you just fine, so we can talk to people. Man, I got to tell you, you have to as Elon Musk is doing everything he can to boost something else to the top of the trending line on X.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's shuffling the hell out of things. You can tell because, like I said, even though there's 5.9 million statements about the strike on Iran, things with 29,000 tags are higher on the list, even in the not in the For You thing.
Is it all about Neil Sedaka now?
Yeah, well, right. Well, what did make it is what are people are calling Operation Epstein Fury, which I think, Epic Fury, Epstein Fury, that's a good play.
Yeah.
The Lincoln Project, I think, named it.
That's a pretty good one.
Yep.
He has done absolutely. You said this already. I'm repeating what you said. He has done everything he can to change the narrative away from that. And this is his, pardon the pun, his trump card.
Yeah. And I've said this a bunch of times too, but his, you can tell Philip's in the background there. We can hear you, Phil. Can you hear us okay?
Hi, Phil.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let me bring you in as well. There you go. Obviously, you're up on this news as well on the Iranian strikes this morning. I don't know if you've been following and how much and how, Okay.
No, not so much. I've been watching the build-up.
Right. Well, the U.S. we struck Iran last night with Israel and their ongoing strikes right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 minutes.
Cool. Thank you.
I can't hear Phil anymore.
You can't hear Phil? Oh, he's not talking.
Test.
Test.
Yeah, that's because he's not talking.
Right.
You can't see him. So
sorry. Yeah, I was looking at a delayed feed. I apologize, Phil.
That is all right. I'm calling up some stuff right now.
Great.
All right, here we go. Yeah, Middle East. There's like, you know, and again, oh God. And this is, yeah, Mark Carney's statement. Okay, I got that. Yeah, and Tim Kaine has called Donald Trump mentally incapacitated after he did the strike. Yeah, it's an argument that that's been true for a while.
A long time.
Okay, bringing stuff up. Hi, chat room. Get your questions ready, by the way, and feel free to reach out both on, I mean, because this is more obviously the active story, Phil, so we're going to be addressing this a bunch.
You're listening to the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out on me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at housesparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Plus face little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Yeah, there are a lot of people, myself included, who immediately upon hearing some sort of magical name for a mission or hearing the way Republicans especially craft a bill, that I expect the exact opposite. Whatever it is, like if Trump declares that he's the peace president and that he's going to have no more foreign wars, that is his announcement. It's a giant wink. It's always a giant wink to the people who want these kind of strikes. And the irony that, you know, maggots in the media and all over the place have been defending, you know, like acting like this is a real thing, acting like Trump was going to be the peace president, that he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, that we have peace in the Middle East literally the president was saying we're going to have everlasting peace in the Middle East because of the Gaza deal, which, by the way, is still not being implemented. I would like to say there's still, you know, it's simmered back to almost the abnormal of a hot war between Israel and Hamas. They just don't have the arms and the ability that they have to fire the rockets into Israel as much as they used to. They're still doing it, but they just can't do it as well anymore. And a lot of their sites where they used to hide have been blown away. So they move around, and it's less of a strike, but it's not for a lack of trying. And that's still happening. There is, you know, we got our hostages back, but largely so that Hamas thought, well, as long as we give these people back, the Americans back, he won't care if this continues. And that's exactly what happened. You know, as soon as the hostages were given back, the story dropped off the headlines entirely. Even the people who were supposedly, you know, the most fiery against Israel or the most fiery against Hamas, they basically dropped it. Philip Bittner's joining us from Kyiv right now. And, you know, Zelensky made a statement earlier today about, let me see if I can find his full statement, but he's, you know, he I think cleverly said, you know, he knows how to do the Macron handshake when it comes to, you know, to dealing with Trump. And he was effectively saying, like, you know, America knows how to deal with criminal leaderships, you know, in an attempt to align their fight with Russia to America's fight against the Iranian Ayatollahs. I get it as smart manipulation. It's hard to know what he really thinks about this, whether it's a good idea. He said it's important that Washington acts decisively, but also that hostilities do not escalate into a wider war. Whenever there's American resolve, global criminals weaken. Events in the Middle East and the Gulf region are unfolding extremely rapidly. Unfortunately, Ukraine knows all too well what this is about. Although Ukrainians never threatened Iran, the Iranian regime chose to become Putin's accomplice and supplied him with Shahed drones. And there's a show more on that. And not only the drones themselves, but also the technologies to produce them. Iran also provided other weapons to Russia. Over the course of this full-scale war, Russia has used more than 57,000 Shahed-type attack drones against the Ukrainian people, cities, and energy infrastructure. Other nations have also suffered from Iranian-backed terror. Therefore, it is fair to give the Iranian people a chance to rid themselves of a terrorist regime and to guarantee security for all nations that have suffered from terror originating in Iran. Our position is well known, and Ukraine has stated it repeatedly, including recently. It is important to preserve as many lives as possible. It is important to prevent war from expanding. It is important that the United States, which, by the way, is an interesting statement considering Trump wants to give Russia land that Russia hasn't taken yet, right? These are this is a smartly worded statement. It's important that the United States is acting decisively whenever there is American resolve. Global criminals weaken. This understanding must also come to the Russians. People cannot know the day or the hour, yet every act of evil, terror, and aggression against neighbors ultimately meets a just response. We expect that in the end, the Middle East region will become safer and more stable. Much has already changed toward that goal. Ukraine is ready to help every nation so that security and justice increase and terrorist regimes decrease. Basically, almost an audience of one post, wouldn't you say, Philip?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Ukraine has no love for Iran, given that Iran has been providing Shahed drones to attack our cities. I mean, I was under attack by a Shahed drone not 72 hours ago, directly. So Ukraine doesn't exactly love Iran either. But look, as somebody who lived through the buildup to the Iraq War, I think this is all performative. It's if we really wanted to tackle and do a regime change and a war that had any consequence in Iran, we'd need boots on the ground.
Right.
Which means for the last 3 months, we would have been, it would have been Incirlik base in Turkey, just like it was our base in Kuwait in the buildup to the Iraq War, with a steady stream of infantry and armor and ground assets. And we don't have any ground assets that are able to attack Iran. This is going to be, we're going to lose, potentially we're going to lose pilots. But this is an air war. We've got two carrier groups that are the primary platforms for this attack in Iran. And we can do some damage with that. We can absolutely send in air assets.
Right.
But if we were really going to do something in Iran, you would have seen months and months of slow, steady buildup in our areas that border Iran, and again, primarily Incirlik in Turkey. And we haven't seen that. This is to my mind, going to be another, performative airstrike on this, that, and the other thing. But if they really wanted to have a war, a full war with Iran, you would need armor and you would need infantry. And we have not moved any of those assets into the region. So we're going to send a bunch of F-16s, F-18s, 35s, 22s, what have you. And it's going to be an air war at best. And, that's not going to do it.
Well, do you think the assumption is that the Israelis would be responsible for the ground war part of it, if there is to be one?
No. The Israelis don't have
or is there an assumption that the Iranian people will do the fighting for them? That essentially, we get in another situation where we're like creating a kind of mass mujahideen.
No, neither of those things are viable.
I agree, but that doesn't mean they're not the plan, because a lot of this isn't viable. You know what I mean?
Well, sure, you could, they could shoot themselves in the foot as much as they like.
Right.
but it's not going to. What needs to be done in Iran, if they really wanted, if the objective was really to overthrow the Islamic Republic of Iran and destroy the Republican Guard and all the rest of it, you would need hundreds of thousands of troops.
Right.
And Israel doesn't have the assets to do that. So they can't go rolling into Iran. The Israelis.
Sure.
We have not done a massive buildup in the region, and again, it would have to be Turkey. And I don't know if the Turks would allow for that. The Kuwaitis were perfectly happy for us to build up for the push into Iraq.
Right.
The Turks are not going to be friendly to 200,000 American soldiers suddenly showing up on the border with Iran. No. This is all. It's more of Trump having no idea what he is doing.
Agreed.
And we do not have a minister of defense. Hegseth is a joke.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing. None of our senior security officials have any idea what they're doing.
Right.
This is a storm in a teacup. And it is performative, and I don't know if it's strictly a distraction from the Epstein files and a wag the dog situation, but what are you going to do? What is the objective?
Sure. Okay. So there are a couple. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'll give some breaking news and update on what's going on in this, and see if there's any kind of linguistic change over the I think in many ways this whole story about it going on for days, maybe even months or whatever, is an attempt to that if it ends in 2 days, look, we won really decisively and they lost, and now everything's hunky dory. We go back to it, and it serves as the same distraction that he had last year, and he can just beat his chest that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for bombing schools. So we got to take a break. When we come back, I agree with you on the tactical part of it, and certainly Hegseth is he is to tactics and strategy what RFK Jr. is to vaccines and airborne illness. Like it just swamped by their own idiocy. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Park Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. And of course, Philip Binder with us from On the Edge. Please subscribe to his channel on YouTube and help get those numbers up as we continue to tell the story of Ukraine as well. We'll be back. Yes, 201 people have been are dead. The number jumped from like 8. These numbers will trickle out, obviously.
What on whose side?
Iran. 201 Iranians across 24 provinces. Now, again, it's hard to say who they mean, or who they're admitting dies versus who they don't admit dies, right?
Yeah.
No soldiers, just the janitors, right, in the building. That's how they count the dead in a lot of these situations.
Airstrikes are not going to do it. Air power, you cannot do what they need to do by air power alone. And that would mean a massive buildup, and we would see it coming a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
Stand by, coming back.
Mm-hmm.
For nothing. We're doing it for nothing.
Yeah.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So this is part of the Iranian response that is, I think, going to determine how this goes as much as the initial reasoning behind it from our side and from Israel's side. The West Bank was just struck. Hit by, they can't tell if it was a missile or debris, an intercepted one or an actual one, but hit in Hebron in the occupied West Bank. Iranian media says that their death toll has climbed to 201, which again, I don't even know how you get about getting those numbers in a situation like this where it's ongoing. And again, they tend to read like points anyways, which is really awkward in these situations. The Qatar has been hit by a second wave. This is the curious part of it to me, Phil, and maybe your time dealing with this region can, give us a bit of insight on this, but they've hit Qatar, Syria. There was a missile exploded, killed 4 people there. Dubai and Abu Dhabi have both been struck directly by Shahed drones and stuff. Now, there's a question, just because a Shahed drone flies in, it might have been Iranian supplied, but it might be a proxy or a local just deciding, well, this is our shot. And so a lot of these things could not maybe be loosely coordinated, not coordinated at all, could be opportunists in some ways, in the same way that like during the California fires in Los Angeles and Palisades, we had 5 people set fires to continue them on. It might have been natural at the start, but the rest of them weren't. There's an element of that that's possible. But as far as the power dynamic, what would be the reasoning besides, because they're not just hitting U.S. bases, for hitting these other countries?
I don't
believe it.
What needs to be done in Iran, if America really wanted to do what its strategic goals are in Iran, it would need a ground force.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'd have to be full in. We would have to be full in, and we're not. And this is these are acts of war, no doubt about it.
Well, yeah.
But this
is
not going to.
I would argue, an undeclared illegal war on Iran. Done at the behest of.
But it is not a war. It is not a war that isn't going to change anything. You can't.
Right.
You can't do what America needs to have done, which is to shut down Iran's nuclear program and to behead their government with air power. You can't do it.
Right.
You need ground troops, and ground troops don't just show up on a dime.
Right.
You don't load a bunch of aircraft carriers with the 82nd Airborne. That's not how it works. The 82nd Airborne goes from airfields. We need boots on the ground to do what it is that Trump is saying is the strategic objective of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, again, and I don't want to be dismissive of this. I don't want to say that this is no big thing. But this is nothing is going to be achieved by this. Not a damn thing. We are not going to shut down Iran's nuclear program with airstrikes. And we are not going to change the regime in Tehran unless we have boots on the ground. And we don't have boots on the ground. And we're not going to have boots on the ground because we haven't been building up to boots on the ground.
Right.
You don't move troops into Iran unless you do a buildup that will take months, and the entire world will see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
You would need armor. You need the first cav.
Mm-hmm.
You need the first cav, first armored. You need the 82nd. You need the 101st. This is not something that can be done by 2 aircraft carrier groups.
Mm-hmm.
This is nothing but performative. They can't do what they claim they want to do just by launching F-18s off of a bunch of carriers.
Right.
You need to get troops in, and that would be a massive buildup, and it would be visible. It would be you couldn't hide it. This isn't special forces. This isn't Venezuela.
Right.
You can't just fly in, and this would be hundreds of thousands of troops from a myriad of different armored divisions, infantry divisions being mobilized into the region, and we're not doing that. All this is Trump desperately trying to I think, control the narrative. Because I don't think I don't even think that, unlike the attack on the nuclear facilities that he did 8 months ago,
right?
Even this is, they're not even going to be able to achieve anything close to that with this kind of military assets in the region. The whole thing stinks, and there's nothing that's going to come of this. Nothing, not a damn thing is going to come of this.
Okay.
It's just going to be putting our pilots in the air at risk, hitting targets that really won't change a damn thing. And it's just it's wag the tail. It's
wag the dog, right?
It's wag the dog.
Right.
What needs to be done in Iran, if they really, really wanted to do what needs to be done in Iran, it would be a ground force buildup that everybody would see, and it would be massive. It would be, bigger than the buildup in Kuwait in the run up to the Iraq War, and that's not what's happening. This whole thing it's a storm in a teacup. I am upset with what is happening, but I don't think it's consequential. I think it is absolutely 100% performative. They do not have the military. You can't do what needs to be done from the air. You need to do it on the ground. And in order to do it on the ground, you need to move in
I hear you on
amounts
that.
of assets.
Yeah, I agree. I hear. What if the strategic goal, is not to take over do kind of an Iraq toppling style, or the lesson learned from the Iraq toppling style, that it would have been better off to set off a civil war, side with one side, and pull what they believe happened in Syria, and that they believe they can, by weakening the regime, eliminating certain military sites from the air. They're effectively the Air Force for the local army on the ground, which would be, let's say, 49% to 55% of the Iranian public, who will, activate and do something about this, and that they're counting on that. Whether it's viable or not, it seems like something strategically that the Hegseths of the world would go, okay, let's do that.
If that's their plan, it's ridiculous.
I agree. No, I'm saying that then, and also the odd follow up is, maybe we don't have troops built up because it would be obvious, like I would argue, right before the Russians attacked Ukraine, it was patently obvious once they started moving military or medical trucks to the border that they were coming in. That was the difference between their previous buildups. That it was a warning, it would let you know this was happening. And Trump has to use the idea that it was we're really for peace. This buildup is just to show them we mean business. That part was just performative because everybody strategically knows this wouldn't be enough. And then he uses that as cover for an air attack that he plans on doing. And then in the weeks that follow, we start feeding, ground troops as needed into small areas, and then drone strike the heck out of the place. I'm not saying it's a good plan, but it could be the plan.
No, that would be a terrible plan, and it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is. Of
No,
course,
you need divisions. You need entire divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Special forces won't do it. When you talk about trying to incite some sort of internal uprising, look, the Kurds couldn't do it against Saddam, and I don't think internally within Iran, and the Kurds are fighters.
Right.
The Kurds are militants for decades. That scenario doesn't work in Iran because the opposition in Iran doesn't have the proper training. I mean, the closest thing the Iranians have is the Mujahideen al-Khalq, who are a militant group, but they're a very small group,
right?
And they're also ineffective because they're nuts. They're a cult. And they're not going to gain popular support in Iraq. So this is It's going to come and it's going to go. Nothing is going to change.
By the way,
not a damn thing.
Top Democrats are condemning Trump's decision right now. Hakeem Jeffries put out a statement that Iran must be confronted for its human rights violations, nuclear ambition, support of terrorism, and the threat it poses to our allies like Israel and Jordan in the region. However, absent exigent circumstances, the Trump administration must seek authorization for the preemptive use of military force and that constitutes an act of war. It's absolutely right. Massey and Ro Khanna, who famously have been pushing the Epstein bill, and of course we are now, I think, amongst a growing crowd of people referring to this as Operation Epstein Fury, are putting forward a war powers resolution about this. Again, closing the barn doors after the horses have bolted, but still. Jack Reed said, against the clear wishes of the American people, President Trump has thrust our nation into a major war with Iran, one he never made a case for, never sought congressional authority for, and for which he has no end game. Every authority available to conduct rigorous oversight should be brought to bear on this. Adam Smith said this offensive use of military force against Iran, absent congressional authorization, is contrary to domestic and international law. So I'm guessing he won't be expecting Trump to get the Nobel Peace Prize anytime soon. Dick Durbin said a war in Iran with the goal of regime change could be another long-term military commitment with deadly consequences for thousands of American troops. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said this war is unlawful, it is unnecessary, and it will be catastrophic. And she supports the war powers vote. The reality is that we're in the minority. Democrats are in the minority, and there is a, especially when it comes to war, Republicans are very happy to circle the wagons. If you recall, Trump ran on getting us out of Afghanistan, and Biden did. We got to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk more about this. Take some of your questions from the chat. Johnny, do we have some?
We do. We got a couple.
Okay, great. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Yeah.
Just move.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm with you.
It's just all so fucking stupid.
Well,
sorry, we're off the air, so I can swear, but it's all so stupid.
Yes.
This will be done within a matter of weeks, days, perhaps, but they have not.
I'm not talking.
They have not. Oh, okay. They have not done what they need to do. If you really wanted to do what they claim to want to do in Iran, you would have to build up massive amounts of ground troops, and they just haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do it from aircraft carriers.
Right?
You can't do it. You can't do it from the air.
Sure.
So I really do. I really do think this is a distraction from Epstein and all sorts of other stuff. Also, it doesn't hurt. Also, hello. Nice to see you.
That's Philip. And Johnny's not looking, but it takes him a moment because he doesn't have a camera. He's just watching the feed, so it'll take him a moment. And then you can watch him notice you. It'll take a couple. That's how. Oh, there it is. See, now he's starting to see. You're like,
hey.
Yeah, see. And he just said, hey. So, hi.
Gym. This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back, everybody. So, my girlfriend just brought me another coffee because that's what's going to take to deal with this ridiculousness. And I'm glad we were off the air when Phil said what he really thinks about this, and I think he's right. He's about how effing stupid this is. The Washington Post is reporting right now that in joint operations talks about this, where they gamed this out between the U.S. and the Israelis, which means that if anything was performative beyond this, of course, it was the peace talks. The idea that there was going to be a deal, that was what was performative, because this strategy and the specific timing of it in many ways was worked out ahead of time between the U.S. and the Israelis. So, this back and forth where, Trump has been pushing away Netanyahu or pulling him close is whatever. That was a dance. It was the tango. It was not a realistic view of what was going on. But apparently, they worked on what would be a division of labor. The Washington Post reports that in the joint operation, U.S. forces appeared focused on taking out Iranian military targets, while the Israeli strikes will target regime sites. And this is the first wave of it. It's kind of like shock and awe, and then we could follow up. Here's the thought. Okay, I agree with you that it'll take a while to roll in troops. But the idea with Iraq was because they didn't have a real military. They really didn't. We could, if we moved all of our stuff in, we could station troops in Kuwait, and they were relatively safe because Iraq didn't really have a military. It's like Bill Hicks's line, it wasn't really a war because a war is when two armies are fighting, right? And so in Iran, where it does have an actual military is in missiles, drones, a navy, however small but real, and ranged weapons. So the idea would be not only that you take those out before your troops come in, which in the old days you would do at the same time because it had to be a blitz, but you would do this and then weeks later do another strike when your troops head troops in to see if they stand down or the Ayatollah gives himself up. This is my own, like if I was sitting in the Situation Room and they're presenting that we're going to do this and we're going to do it this way, that would be my, we're not going to build up troops because the president won't let you because it will show the lie that his negotiations are a farce. So he's got to pretend he's really having them, and you can't have troops build up because people will know when you move that many people. So you hit him with a big airstrike. We did one last year. Then we'll do this one, and it will be a prolonged shock and awe kind of thing. And while it's happening, troops will start mobilizing because of the counterstrikes that have been done. We're going to have to move our troops in the Middle East around. And in doing that, we're going to swap people out. We're going to bring them in. And it could take weeks, months. And if the sites that the airstrike would destroy are still destroyed, then the ground force aspect is still potent a month and a half, 2 months later. See what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just trying. It's staggering.
Months. It takes months to move the kind of ground force that would be required to actually invade Iran. It would take 3 months at the very least.
Right, and I think that let's say they bombed the place.
It would have to be done with the approval of it would Congress. It would have to be Turkey.
Okay.
No, it would have to be Turkey. We would have to do a major staging area in Turkey. Now we have Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, so we have some infrastructure there that we could build out. But I can't think of another staging area where we can't build a staging area in Iraq. The Iraqis won't let us send 200,000 armed men into eastern Iraq to position themselves for an invasion. I mean, I was there in Kuwait for the buildup for the invasion of Iraq. And it took months and months and months. And it was logistics. It was moving. It was infrastructure. It was command and control. And I don't think the Turks are going to let us do that. And neither are the Iraqis. So we're not going to be involved in a ground war in Iran anytime soon. This whole thing is almost to the point of farcical.
I think it's completely farcical. I think that's the thing. Like it's so farcical that
what puts our air. So what we're really doing is we're putting our pilots in harm's way.
Right. Agreed.
For nothing.
Yeah.
Now, if our air power,
if you were in the Epstein files over 1 million times, I don't think you would think it was for nothing.
Yeah. But as far as like a full-scale ground invasion of Iran, that's not in the foreseeable future.
Right.
We're putting a bunch of pilots, naval pilots coming off of aircraft carriers to make strikes in Iran for a very small potential of any kind of objective, and for what?
Yeah.
For what? What are we doing? What are we doing any of this for?
Right. Agreed.
This is none of this.
Whoops, we lost a little bit.
The various,
yeah,
nuke sites that we did 8 months ago really did anything.
Right.
It's embarrassing that well, not embarrassing. It's offensive and disgusting.
Yeah.
That this is being done for nothing. None of this is not going to change anything. This is not going to change anything. It is performative. It is putting our men and women who fly those bombing missions at risk for minimal results.
Mm-hmm.
And it cannot, just like the Russians cannot achieve their strategic goals in Ukraine, America cannot achieve its strategic goals in Iran by simply using air power. And they don't, and I get what you're saying,
mm-hmm.
that maybe you soften things up and then you send in ground troops, right? But that would have already had to have started. We would have already had to have, we would have had the 82nd or the 101st.
I don't think so, though. I agree. In terms of, the early 2000s build up to Iraq, I think that's the strategy you had to use. But in this particular case, because one of the primary aspects of this attack is, I don't think Trump gives a damn about how you do a tactical success, under normal conditions. He wants to create abnormal conditions specifically this way, and he doesn't care how long it goes on. And so he would rather do these hit strikes, hit and leave, hit and leave, hit and leave, and break them down that way than any kind of sustained thing that people can criticize. He's realized that, and I think the lesson he learned from the strike last year was that maggots will fold. They, in terms of, there are some things, obviously, like the Epstein files, that they won't. But on stuff like this, they'll go from this is a terrible idea to rah, rah, rah in a matter of 4 days. And if he needs to, he can do this quarterly with the military that he has. He could bomb them quarterly and never bring troops in and say he's achieved his objectives every single time. He could say mission accomplished at the end of a 3-day strike, and maggots will go, okay, good, he's done, and he's never going to do it again. So anyways, we'll back to cheering for tariffs or something. But I really do think that they believe that this is a new era of technology and surgical strikes. And it's one of those things where you just have, they're taking more notes. Over the last couple of days, I think they took more notes from Jack Dorsey firing half of his staff at Block than they did from Sun Tzu's The Art of War or any kind of normal military strategy. And that for those that don't know, Jack Dorsey used to own Twitter, has a company called Block, which owns Cash App and some other things. And because AI is expanding, instead of waiting to slow roll it or being caught because some upstart uses a bunch of AI, he fired half of his workforce, 4,000 people in a day, because we're just going all in on letting AI do those jobs. We're not going to do it bit by bit. We're just going to cut the fat and move on. And it was a huge, it raised their stock price, but it also was a huge shock to the SaaS market. People responded financially, and that includes Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent and how smart that was and all that. So they were talking about this. This is a similar thing, like strike dramatically, and then, check and see what the stock market says, and then do it again. Because I don't doubt that Dorsey will cut his staff by 2,000 next, cut it in half. And I think
I can see that. I could see that. But what I'm saying is,
my argument is just because something,
we're not going to have a land war. We're not going to have a land war in Iran.
My argument would be is just because something's stupid, useless, and ineffective doesn't mean that the Trump administration isn't going to do it. I know that's thin ice to walk on. But
I get that. I get that. But as somebody who's actually seen what it takes to conduct a war.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're not. There are no plans in Washington at the Pentagon to have a land invasion of Iran. It's not happening. It's just we would have known. We would see it coming, and it's not happening anytime in the next 2 years.
I would like to remind you that these are the pictures that are showing up on MAGA sites right now, which is the fist in the air Butler photo of Trump being shot with Trump and Bondi and Kash Patel holding up Jeffrey Epstein.
I mean, I don't want to give the impression that I'm not concerned about this or upset about this. I am.
Yeah.
I think this is. I think the whole thing is foolish. I think the whole thing is performative is too loose of a word, but it is not a realistic plan to conduct a full-scale war against Iran, which would be the thing that would be needed to achieve the strategic goals of either either Israel or the United States. To invade Iran, which is what you would necessarily have to do, would be a operation of such scale that it would take months and months, and it would not have started with 2 carrier groups. Even if it was like we're going to provoke them, and then we'll have the excuse to send our ground forces to an adjacent country that could invade Iran.
Okay, so I agreed. Okay,
that's not how it works.
Yeah, let's take a break. When we come back, obviously, I don't think we're going to have the happy ending music this week because, But let's talk about then what is the reasoning beyond simply, protecting Trump from the Epstein files for, by making maggots hate him for something that they more than they hate him for not releasing the Epstein files. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. I don't know if Johnny Million saw that.
Maybe he got instructions from the Kremlin because the Kremlin has just lost 400 square kilometers of territory in eastern Ukraine.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah, there's
No, the whole damn thing is just...
Yeah. Well, it's as stupid as everything else about this administration.
Yeah.
And CSL saying, true, we staged in Turkey for Desert Storm. It was critical. You're absolutely right, CSL. And if people...
we did.
If this was based on a real strategy instead of the brains of Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, I don't doubt that Dan Raisin Kane, who was against this strike as it is, because probably of this very same reason that you're articulating, is coming out, I guarantee he argued the exact same thing you're arguing. And that was one of the reasons he was against the strike, besides its possibility for blowback and extension and
You're
growing
back in
on.
15 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just if it is their intention to actually invade Iran, then this is the absolute
Now
worst.
back to Hal Sparks on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT AM.
Welcome back to the show. So in talking about this thing about the strategy the obvious belief system going on in maggotdom right now, it has boiled down to sort of the Candace Owens thing, is that we're doing it because Israel told us to, either because we're wholly owned as a subsidiary of Israel, or Donald Trump knows they have a copy of the Epstein files, that Epstein was a Mossad agent. All the stuff they have on Trump is in the hands of the Israeli government, and so we will dance to their tune no matter what happens. I don't think that wholly explains the action, because it would be easier to, I guess, pour Balthorium G into the tea of the people who are threatening you than this kind of large, make those people have a heart attack is well within the skill set of awful people on the planet that you could probably hire with the money that Trump has made in Bitcoin. Had made until it was gone. But the reasoning behind this is that, much like the first strike, it kind of sounds like, Trump is just doing it because Israel asked him to.
Yeah, I mean, potentially, but I'm sure the Israelis are well aware that
it will take more than this, right?
Yeah, the result of whatever we're going to do is not going to be effective in what. Look, Israel and America want to destroy Iran's potential nuclear weapons program. I mean, that's ultimately they want regime change,
right?
But at the very least, they want to destroy the nuclear arms program. It can't be done from the air.
I agree. I totally agree. Here's what I would say to that. I get what you're saying, but I'm saying if we're doing it on behalf of Israel, this talking point that they're coming from, then it would be enough to just do massive airstrikes and destroy the missile capability and the Air Force capability of Iran for Israel's sake temporarily, even if it's 2 years before they build it back up, and then other things could keep them from getting the materials they would need to rebuild that, so that Israel is safer from, eliminate the proxies and then eliminate the reach of Iran as the last resort. You could argue that this bomb isn't about regime change. Ultimately, that the Israeli leadership could argue that the Iranians and the Saudis pitted against each other on the regular helps distract what would be their natural enemy in that area, the religious enemy in that area, busying them fighting amongst themselves. So the existence of the Iranian regime could be a net positive if they don't have the ability to direct fire a hypersonic missile or a nuke at Israel. So it would be enough it's not enough for what would be our goals of regime change, if that's what Trump is talking about, and it seems like he is. You're absolutely right that it's inadequate, but it would be completely adequate for Israel, like Netanyahu's goals, and that it's performative for us, but not for them.
Well, yeah, and it's rinse and repeat for it's the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dam. Eventually, it's going to crack.
Yeah.
And both Israel and the U.S. have had this policy towards Iran and their nuke program, in that they just want to keep staving it off and staving it off and staving it off, and it's not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
We had a deal.
Yeah.
But because it was Obama's deal, he chucked it out the window.
Right.
The Iranians.
What you get is, why would they take a deal? Why would they take a deal with a guy who broke the last one? That's been the absurdity of it.
And then we got to the point. We got to the point with the Iranian nuclear deal that was negotiated by Kerry and Obama, that they could have nuclear capacity for power and for medical research.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the two primary reasons. Well, the things that we said we would allow them to enrich uranium to the capacity that they could do those two things.
Mm-hmm.
But we wouldn't allow them to enrich something that would go to an actual nuclear bomb. There was always the argument and the criticism that even allowing them to enrich to the level of energy or medical resource would allow them to have a dirty bomb, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
That was negotiated.
Yeah.
And Trump has thrown that in the river. And now we are at a point where we are back to the same problem, and the Israelis are as well, that it's staved off the inevitable. And it's just, this is not going to do it.
Well, maybe,
This isn't,
to your point, maybe
whatever they're up
maybe
to isn't going to do
I agree.
what they need to do.
Maybe, and again, this is, nobody knows what idiots think or if they do at all. But maybe that's the point. Maybe whether Trump and Hegseth have a strategic bone in their body, Netanyahu certainly does. And maybe the goal of this is to get that exact statement that you're making to be the prevailing thought. Look, they can bomb from the air all they want, but if they want to end this, we're gonna need troops on the ground, where that becomes patently obvious to everyone watching, that the generals that are on television that end up being on TV, and this becomes the new version of the run-up to the Iraq War. We're looking at the timeline in terms of the Iraq War, in that there was conversations in WMD, and then Yellow Cake, and then UN, and then bomb, right? Whereas Trump and his crowd, are, very TV oriented. It's all largely a show, as you pointed out. So the idea is strike first, do something that you can pound your chest about, and then everybody will go, yeah, but this isn't going to amount to regime change, and you're just extending the problem, and it's not going to go away until this happens. And that becomes an inevitable thought in everyone's mind, and it becomes the prevailing talking point amongst any military strategic guest that's on as a pundit, whether they're CIA, FSB, or MI6. It won't matter. They'll go, yeah, you'll never be able to turn this over because of the IRGC, without troops on the ground. And that's just going to be, and that becomes a rolling point where they go, well, actually, yeah, you're right. So we're going to have to do this. And it becomes, we end up invading Iran in June, during the lead up to the midterms, where we're at full...
No, we don't have the time for that.
Well, no, I mean, it's March. It'll be the beginning of March this weekend, April, May, June, and then, into the summer. We need 6 months. We need at least 6 months. Okay. I agree. But that doesn't mean they don't think they can use the discombobulator and that half the troops will be necessary, and he's being talked into this. The real strategy point of it isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that this is how you get a war that rolls into the midterms. This is how you don't change a horse midstream. We're fighting a war against Islamic extremists, and if you hand the House and the Senate over to the Democrats, they're going to side with the terrorists. And if you vote Democrat, the terrorists win. Like, we're right back there. It's just a different mechanical timeline, because people now in the United States, in a way they weren't back in the Iraq War, are ready to watch for the signs that we're headed towards another Iraq. Right? That's the thing. We all know this. We know there has to be
we would be at the point where we would be saying, going into the midterms, that the decision to conduct a buildup that would lead to an invasion force would be around the midterms. And I don't know how palatable that would be going into it.
Well, here's the thing.
So the decision is, we're going to send 3 divisions into whatever staging area it is as we go into the midterms, and that's part of the discussion of going into that. And so
I would say right before, by September,
right, and it's that's not going to. I'm very.
I'm not saying. Here's the thing. I'm not saying it's a good plan.
The selling point.
Yeah, well, that's what's the other alternative? The Epstein stuff continues to leak out. Prices continue to rise. Affordability isn't being handled, and the interest rate maintains or has to go up because inflation is hitting people.
The whole thing's stupid.
Right. What else are you going to talk about? And the worst thing, literally, you can pull a George W. Bush, which is, you don't change a horse midstreams. We have to rally around the president. We're at war with extremists and terrorists. And if you vote Democrat, the terrorists win. Like, this is it worked before. It doesn't mean it's going to work now, and I don't think it would. But I do think they're unoriginal and they're counting on this part, and I think that's the most concerning part of this is that while the strategy of this is how you do a buildup is absolutely true in the mechanics of if you wanted to be successful, but if the success is measured on a different metric, namely hiding all your other problems, helping your friend hide all their other problems, and looking macho in front of your voters again to guarantee that the House doesn't flip, so you don't get impeached, and they don't impeach Pam Bondi, replace her with an AG that intends to release all the Epstein files, and then you're stuck. That's where I think it is, and it's
but the selling point. But then the selling point would be, hey, remember the Iraq War and the Iraq War buildup that you hated so much? We're going to do it again as we go into the midterm.
Yeah, I know, but like Iran, it doesn't have a nuclear weapon. We're trying to keep them from. So that lie is hidden, it's couched in. Like I said, I don't think it's a smart plan, but I do think it might be the only plan, and that's the problem we have. Thank you so much for being on today. I'm sorry we didn't get to the questions because this was a good conversation. Thank you, Johnny Million, for making the trip into the studio. I owe you, big boy. And
No
we're gonna.
worries.
I will talk to you guys later on. I'm probably going to do another broadcast later this afternoon about this stuff. So stay tuned.
Call.
Yeah, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else, and we'll see you next week.
Keep calm and carry on.
Mm-hmm. You and your tattoos.
I'm really not worried about this. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm upset about it.
Right.
But I'm not worried about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't.
All right, guys, I'm going to hit the road.
Yeah. Bless you.
All right, Johnny.
Bye,
Take
Johnny.
care.
All right.
See you later.
Thank you,
And
Phil.
I'll let you
Thank
go,
you.
Phil.
Love you guys.
Be safe.
I hate to be contrarian, but I'm not. I think that it takes a lot more to conduct a war.
I agree.
And especially a war against a country like Iran than what they're doing right now. I agree. Stupidity is still absolutely an option.
It's the wild card.
And short-sightedness and the idea that like we can distract with the potential or even the clouds of a potential war in Iran that will distract from either Epstein or the collapse of the Russian forces, which I'm sure Putin might be influencing Trump to do because he's lost 400 kilometers in the last week.
Right.
400 square kilometers in the last week. So, take away from that as well. I do not think this is going to turn into a war. A ground war.
I mean,
it's just the whole fucking thing is so fucking stupid.
I completely agree.
Jesus
but again,
Christ.
Stupid is par for the course. And the violence of Trump when he's desperate is well charted. And the extension of this, interestingly enough, and it's hard to tell at this point whether it will extend this or shorten it, is them hitting Dubai. They hit the Fairmont Palms Hotel on one of these big palm tree islands. Iran struck one of those things or whatever. And that's a moneyed interest thing that goes beyond just Israel-U.S. politics. And I would argue, like I said, that I think Trump has more in common with the Saudi and UAE and Dubai, specifically leaders than he does with Netanyahu at this point. He's got more financial ties to them, and they have been more than happy for a long time to let Israel be their proxy to fight Iran. It's not an active proxy. They don't supply Israel, but they're happy to sit back and let it happen and go, oh, it's a shame.
Sure.
Right? While kneecapping funding going through their country that might go to some of because one of the reasons why funding dried up with Hezbollah and Hamas is not because the money wasn't there and wasn't in the accounts, was because some people were bouncing it around and making it not arrive, or at least not arrive on time. That kind of stuff for the purchase of weapons and those kind of things, which, like Musk turning off Starlink against the Ukrainians at one point, or, Trump trying to slow down the javelins. It's not a new strategy, is my point. And I think the concern I have is that there are, not only is Trump and Hegseth fucking dumb, But there are a lot of people who are aware of how dumb they are and impulsive they are and are willing to take advantage of that fact, not the least of which is Netanyahu. But there are a lot of other players in the area that, are more than happy to play on that part of it. And again, we may just ultimately be seeing, one of 3 strikes this year. They do it for 7 days and then call it off. They go, we missed.
Ground troops aren't happening.
Operation, we missed a spot. I'm just saying.
Not for a very, very long time, and a lot of steps would have to be taken.
I'm sure
in the build up to a ground invasion of Iran.
Yeah,
and that's what it's going to take. You're going to actually have to have ground troops in there to do what they want to do strategically, and I don't know as America has the appetite for it.
Oh, I know we don't, but again, I don't think Trump's base has an appetite for reality, and I think he thinks he's so chuffed by what happened in Venezuela that he I mean, look at Iraq and Afghanistan, for fuck's sake. Like, everybody knew this was a dumb idea, and we were like walking into a long, drawn-out thing, and we're already in one country, we're going to attack another, and the idea that this was going to be shock and awe and over was a joke at the time, because you need this and this and this to make this happen. You need a buy-in from the people and all these other stuff, which were all true, by the way, but it didn't stop them. It didn't stop the attack, because this is, this has been on PNAC's list for a long fucking time.
Hey, if you start to see, what was Cheney's,
Wolfowitz?
No, the company.
Halliburton.
Halliburton. Start to see Halliburton putting up tents in Turkey, then we can start to worry.
Right. Yeah. I think what Ukraine has shown, by and large, is, you want to talk about meat waves versus technology, that one of the other things that might be convincing the administration is that, look at what Ukraine's doing to the waves of humans, the troops, the people on the ground that Russia is sending in. Most of the casualties, like 60% of Russian casualties, are from drones, from small drones, grenades dropped by drones. And so the State Department and knowing full well that these negotiations were a farce, and the military, wanting to test all this fucking Palantir gear and shit like that, might be more than happy to see if maybe we can do this without people. Like, there's a very strong chance that's like, that there are dudes around the Pentagon right now, specifically, the Palantir folks and Palmer Luckey and these motherfuckers, all saying, I don't even know that we need soldiers anymore for any of this stuff. We got drones that can fly right into somebody and target them specifically. We can do it, I'm sure they're telling them they can target by DNA. So, it's not about whether it's true or not. It's about how much Trump believes the lie. And he'll keep at this plan, just like Putin is, until such time as he's driven out of office or he keels over.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I hear you.
I'm not stressing them. I'm not stressed about this at all.
Yeah.
I'm upset. I'm angry, but I'm not stressed.
Right. Understood. I appreciate it. Thanks for being on. I'll let you go. Thanks for sticking over too.
I will talk to you on Wednesday.
All right. Be safe.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right.
Take care.
We'll catch up on all the Russian losses then.
Yeah. Lots to talk about on Wednesday about Russia.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you. I'm going to let him go because, by the way, CSL, I completely agree. Remember how pleased Trump was when Zelensky talked about why they aren't having elections. Because he thinks he can do the exact same thing. The problem he has is that in the United States, our ground is not under attack. And there aren't separatist factions in the country. Even if there were terrorist acts, we could still have elections. And again, people doing protests against the war, if it extends into the fall, still won't be enough to stop elections going into the fall, because there are Republicans that will not be sworn in. You don't get to just hold on to your fucking seat in a bunch of areas. And there's a bunch of people who want to unseat Massey, for example. Because again, let's say you don't have the midterms, you still got Massey. You still have the exact balance that's in there, which is not enough for Trump to pass a lot of the shit that he wants to pass, right? It just won't be. And you still got Massey. You would have a bigger group of people on the Republican side jumping over for joining them in resolutions against this and all this stuff because their constituencies demand it. And so, old Billy Joe, he doesn't care about passing laws. I agree. But everybody else does. All the other Republicans do. Right? And that becomes that's increasingly the wild card. It's how the Epstein files started coming out. It's how he started this shit. And I know this idea that he's going to dissolve the fucking Congress and by order, it just won't happen. That will not happen. We don't have that kind of government. We don't have a parliament. We have elected representatives in a House and a Senate. It's in the fucking Constitution. It's not an afterthought that was tacked on when we shifted the version of our government. It's been there since the very fucking beginning. And that part's not going to happen. Him pulling a bunch of dumb shit will. But again, it's not even about how much you and I hate what he's going to do around the midterms. It is the sheer fact that his own people aren't going for it. They're not going for it now. And increasingly, they're almost more pissed off. Like, I think a lot of us are almost resolutely, we already know how we're going to vote. So we're like, oh, fuck. We got this kind of like attitude of like, here we go again. They're waking up to it increasingly. I mean, and I've shown you guys, it's why I show you guys the rift on the right. It's why you need to know about this. Because one of the things that they do that demoralizes the Democratic vote more than anything else, almost as much as TYT tries, is that, well, you're overwhelmed. There's these nutcases are going to vote with him no matter what. They've already got the Supreme Court. He's probably going to erase the elections anyways. And that makes you go, well, what the fuck am I even trying for? And that doesn't just step you down from, voting, because I think most people know that that's not stopping anybody from voting now if you look at how Democrats are turning out. But it demoralizes your pushback on social media, your assumptions about people. You start buying into what the bots are saying. And that's what they need so that they can turn the narrative their direction. Because you're like, nobody listens. Nobody's going to happen. Democrats don't do anything. Nothing's being done. Like, that's the space they want you in all the time. And it's a moral imperative not to fall for that. And a bunch of the right wingers, I got to say, are splitting with Trump on this and not just on a yelling on Twitter, right? They're genuinely, somebody's sending out memberships. Thank you guys so much. And thanks for your support. Like, I forget to ask, and it's crucial to the existence of the channel. And I thank you very much. And Venmo, Patreon, et cetera, et cetera. But this is crucial. Does anybody remember, I'm going to say, we'll go pop culture for a minute. We'll try to take a breath about this. Does anybody remember the name of David Brent's band in The Office, in the British Office? David Brent in episode 4, I think, of season 1, when he's singing some of his old songs, which are hilarious. What was the name of his band? It's so good, and it takes the. If you haven't watched it, you have to. The original one's amazing. Somebody's going to know it. I know it. Can't remember. It's so the name of, and don't look it up. If you don't know, it's okay. There you go. Nikki got it. Foregone Conclusion. Okay, the joke being that the band was doomed to fail. There you go. There are a bunch of people who finally popped in with it. Yeah, Foregone Conclusion. And I have often said for a long time that Donald Trump is David Brent. Look at how David Brent dances with his like that, and it's exactly Trump in the Epstein video of him dancing. And there's a lot of that dance that he does that's really ridiculous, that is very much like Trump's fucking double hand job dance that he does. They're the same fucking guy. You all looked it up. Shame on you. But I have to say that if Trump had a band, it'd be called Foregone Conclusion. Nerd Halen, thank you very much. Quit it. Right? So this is, you can see this coming. The failure is baked in. I want to be really clear about this. The failure is baked in. Because, even in the best of circumstances, like I say, never underestimate Donald Trump's ability to fuck up a free lunch. The same thing is true. Now, I know everybody's doing coverage today, and I don't want to eat into everybody else's show. I'm going to pop back on later for an update and to talk about this more fully. But what I would say is, as you're listening to all this stuff, this would be my plea to you as a viewer. One, take all the sports, like the numeric aspects of it, the sports score aspect of it, with a huge grain of salt, both directions, okay? Just understand that both sides have a reason to lie. And the people who are dead will be dead long after this, and the people who are still alive will find out about them later. And it's very important to focus on what needs to be said, which is that this war is illegal, shouldn't have been started in the first place, and is all on Donald Trump. I don't give a shit if maggots want you to think Netanyahu made him do it because they want him to be an innocent victim in this situation. He's being blackmailed by his own pedophilia, which again, I don't know what kind of defense that is, but good luck. But they want it to look like he's just controlled. Like the deep state, they're going to kill him if he doesn't do what Netanyahu says, because he can't be part of this. That's what they have to keep telling themselves. But I'm here to say he is. He's the decider. He made this decision. He called on these strikes. I don't care if he coordinated with Israel back and forth, and if Israel's been pushing the shit out of this, it doesn't matter. He decided this. He made this illegal order. He declared war basically on another country without congressional approval. He went against our system of government, and that is not America first. It's not constitutional. It's not even fucking conservative. So nonsense. Don't let him get away with blaming fucking Israel or Iran for not talking faster. Trump made this decision. It's 100% on him. Now, the other thing is while you're watching this, I want you to see, because, in respect to what Phil's saying, I'm not going to, talk about him out of the side of my mouth. But past is not always prologue. And if anything, they've learned that, we didn't all learn the same lesson from the Iraq War. The prevailing mythology is that the lesson we all learned was like Vietnam. Don't do it, right? That seems to be no more regime change, no war for oil, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, these assholes voted for a guy who said we should have kept the oil. So, and turned the Department of Defense into the Department of War. So let's be abundantly clear. The strategic aspect of expectation, where if you're going to do this, you would have to do this. Throw that out the window right now, because this is not a standard war against an equal in the first place, and it's certainly not something where the objective that is stated is the actual objective. Just view it, believe what you want to believe and take in what you want to take and come to your own conclusions. I think that's very important. However, allow me to introduce another philosophical, theoretical, and tactical point that you won't hear otherwise, because that's what gives my channel value. That's where I can add to your life and give you, whatever tool you use, that's your choice. But I can add another tool to your toolbox in that regard. Yes? Does that sound cool to everybody? I just want to state that before you guys go out and are inundated with the noise and the signal of all this mess. This is incredibly important. Because can we have a Zoom? That slipped by. I didn't see the Zoom message. Beg your pardon. But I'm gonna let you guys go. Check that stuff out. Please support the show if you appreciate what I'm doing here. And there's a reason why I've been having Phil on every week so that we can talk about Ukraine, for example, was a mild exception today. But when these things matter, they don't stop mattering just because some people have lost interest. I started Friday AI on the show on Fridays when people were probably least interested about it. And a lot of what I've said on there, if not all of it, has proven true already. And I will continue to do my best to guide you through this thing that is happening, that is not under any of our direct control. So we are going to have the best possible way of interpreting it, knowing what it really is, not what we're being told it is, which is clear. All of these things are important, and that's why I do the show. So hopefully that helps, and I can add some benefit to your life. That's really what I want. So the philosophical tool specifically is that the objective in this situation is not the objective that is stated, and the expectations about and all the talk about whether or not you could achieve the objective with the certain strategic and tactical stuff is a rabbit hole that they intend you to go down. And you're better to pay attention to what's actually being done than what's being said in that regard. And especially around this. And don't get caught up as much as you can. The details are good to have, but don't think that the details explain away the impetus in the first place or give credence to the impetus in the first place. This is not Iranian deaths or Israeli deaths or buildings blown up in Bahrain is not evidence of the assertions of Donald Trump or Netanyahu or anybody else or the Iranians for that matter. So just keep an eye out for that. And understand that the timing of Clinton and the Clintons were both deposed, and now Donald Trump, they called him out. They said, "We did it. Now it's your turn, dumbass." And the timing is, could be patently obvious to some people. Other people might think it's a real threat from Iran and it just broke down naturally. But I would say, gather more information before you draw your conclusions in this, and at least think that from a tactical, strategic, military build-up point of view, that this is not your grandfather's war, and that they've learned lessons from what happened in Ukraine. They've drawn, ego boost from what happened in Venezuela, and the decisions inside the White House are being met by people who are high on TRT. And you have to see it through that window. If you come back on, turn on the notifications. Yes, turn on your notifications if you want to see me pop back on. That would be a good idea. Yeah. Maybe this is the one time, maybe hit the notification bell on the show. And comment on the videos and that kind of stuff. Help me boost this up, because I think I'm the only person discussing it from this point of view. Just saying. Really trying to help. Okay. Love you guys. And I think in terms of, today, where did I... There it is. I'm really, they've earned it, haven't they? Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else.
The screen glows bright with a crooked smile. Words spill out, all venom, no style. Promises made, Paper thin truths that crumble like ash. Golden thrones built on stolen cash. We raise our fists, we break the mold. Your heart